This is ContraZoom, and this week we don't have a new episode, so there will be no going back and forth about film. That said, we are still presented by Aesthetic Magazine, and I want to do a bit of a housekeeping update. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for listening. The show has grown so much these last few months, and I can't thank everyone enough. Traditionally, this show has been a bi-weekly affair, but with everything being shut down, I was able to dedicate more time to it and was able to produce a show every single week since late April. ContraZoom Pod seasons run from just after the Oscars, when I do a Best Films of the Year show, which is usually in March, through next year. I sometimes take a bit of time off, but this year I went hard into the new season and have already produced 16 shows. Considering my goal is usually 22 to 24 shows in 12 months, I'm well on my way to surpassing that. I know podcasting works best when it is regularly posted, but moving forward, I can't guarantee a weekly show. I've mapped out the show to be bi-weekly up until the end of 2020, with plenty of open slots to insert if I have interviews or surprise subject matter I want to cover with ease. This year, we've had two big hits here: the history of A24 films and the history of the Criterion Collection. Listeners love these shows and the feedback has been inspiring. I have a few ideas for future ones, including Neon Films and Like a Studio, but if anyone has suggestions, please feel free to send me a message. Other upcoming shows that are planned include the last decade of our Best Picture rankings, a feature that has been going on since episode 1 back in 2015. After Stephanie and I rank the last decade available to us, we'll do a best and worst of episode to summarize the experience. It was a fruitful topic, and one that inspired me to pivot and do something similar with directors too. The first director we ranked was Christopher Nolan in preparation of the as-of-yet unreleased Tenet. We are wanting to do one about Wes Anderson for The French Dispatch and Denis Villeneuve for Dune, but I have a huge list of directors I'd love to do. Last year was our first real TIFF access, getting to attend press screenings. We hope to be able to provide the same coverage and interviews this year as well. Another fun ongoing series is the Make Remake, which compares an original and a remake. Past pairings have included The Invisible Man, The Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven, and Oldboy. With the upcoming release of David Fincher's Mank, we thought we would pair it with its source material in Citizen Kane. Of course, there will be a Halloween episode, as that is one of our favorites of the year. I'm planning on having some fun guests on for that one. I also want to say that if you're a fan of this show, make sure you check out the guest appearances I have made on other podcasts. Back in June, I was a guest on the Hawkeyes podcast to discuss the Ethan Hawke film Cymbeline, and it was a lot of fun. Hosts Harper Thompson and Jonathan Zavaleta have both been guests on this show, notably in the Best of the Decade countdown we did in December. I was also more recently on Please Watch This, where I got to recommend one of my all-time favorite movies, The Life Aquatic, to host Hugh Dempsey and Sam Blakely, and it was a blast. We made a deal that they need to come on ContraZoom at some point in the future, and that they will help me back on their show too. So please check out both Hawkeyes and Please Watch This. On a similar note, I've had a few podcast friends on this season that you should also be checking out. Nathan Sizemore and Katie Cottrell from the horror-themed I Hope You Suffer guested on our Hot Docs episode, where we discussed a documentary about the making of The Exorcist. Callum McNabb, one half of the Scare Introducing podcast, came on to discuss The Invisible Man in our Make Remake episode. For someone who doesn't watch a lot of horror, I do seem to be friends with a lot of horror podcasters. I'm also growing and looking for more podcaster friends to come on the show, so if you are one or know a good show, drop me a line. But please do check out both I Hope You Suffer and Scare Introducing. I know I'm bearing the lead here a bit, but in very exciting news, we have an official website now. Go to ContraZoomPod.com for all things ContraZoom related. All past shows and guest appearances on other shows are there, and I'll have plenty more as time goes on. The odd blog post, the history of the show, and much more. Do you like free swag? Well, I'm working on designing some podcast stickers to start with, and when it's all ready, I'll mail them out to listeners for free if they live in North America. Stay tuned for that announcement. Lastly, if you have listened to the show once or 50 times, if you could please leave us a rating and review on iTunes, Podchaser, or any other podcast directory that you use. It will be a great help. I know you hear it from every show you listen to, but it really does help us grow and find new listeners, which in turn allows me to do even more awesome episodes. Make sure you search the full name, ContraZoom Pod. The pod part is very important, otherwise you'll only see the older feed and not the new one with the white logo. I want to thank Eric and Kevin Smale for the theme music and Stephanie Pryor for the logo design. Thank you to Aesthetic Magazine for presenting the show. Follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at ContraZoomPod, and send me an email, ContraZoomPod@gmail.com, if you have any feedback or suggestions. I'll plug it once more, but please visit ContraZoomPod.com for all your CZP needs. And bookmark it, as I'll be adding lots of cool content to it over time. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned next week for an all-new episode.